Mel Brooks is now 99 years old and worth around $100 million, but in recent years people close to him have started noticing things that do not make sense. In 2010, he sold his own Tony Award at an auction. Everyone assumed it was just a sweet gesture for charity, something a generous celebrity might do. But people who know him well whispered that it was not that simple. Since then, he has been giving away old props from his famous movies to museums without keeping anything for himself. He has signed deals for new projects worth around $20 million, but the money seems to be going somewhere unexpected. His family is uneasy, his lawyers are puzzled, and what first looked like normal generosity feels like something bigger. No one knows for sure what he is planning, but they all agree it is something surprising. Mel Brooks began life far away from fame, comfort, or wealth. He was born on June 28, 1926, in a cramped tenement building on Powell Street in Brownsville, Brooklyn. The apartment was so small and the air inside always felt heavy. His family survived on only $25 a week, which today would barely equal $400. His parents, Kate Brookman and Max Kaminsky, carried the struggles of their Ukrainian Jewish roots and the crushing pressure of the Great Depression. Mel was the youngest of 4 boys. His brothers Irving, Lenny, and Bernie were bigger, older, and louder, and the tiny home often ran out of space and food. Even in this tight and difficult environment, something inside these early years shaped him in ways that would later define his genius. He paid attention to everything: the kids fighting and joking in the streets, the adults carrying invisible sorrow, the way people survived, celebrated, or hid their pain. All those moments settled inside him like seeds waiting to grow into humor, stories, and sharp observations. Being small and often sick made childhood even harder. In Brownsville, children did not hold back when they sensed weakness. Mel was bullied many times. His brothers could fight, but Mel learned a different kind of survival. He learned to be quick with his words. Some days he hid in alleyways just to avoid getting beaten. But he discovered something unusual that helped him survive. He could imitate voices, Irish accents, Italian rhythms, a southern drawl, anything he heard. The minute he changed his voice, the teasing would stop. Kids were thrown off, confused, distracted, or amused. What began as a trick for safety slowly became a habit, and later the foundation of his comedy. He often said later that imitating people helped him understand them deeply. He could sense their fear, anger, pride, or joy just by trying to sound like them. Comedy became a tool to read human emotions and to transform pain into something useful. When Mel was 9, everything changed in a single evening. His uncle took him to the Alvin Theatre on West 52nd Street to see the show Anything Goes. When Ethel Merman stepped onto the stage and filled the room with her powerful voice, Mel felt something shake inside him, something he could not explain. When the show ended, he walked out of the theatre and told his uncle he would never work in the garment district like the rest of the family. He decided he would make people laugh for a living. That moment became a flame he protected for the rest of his life. As he grew older, his world expanded when he met Buddy Rich, the legendary drummer who was also from Brooklyn. Buddy taught Mel how rhythm, discipline, and timing mattered not only in music but in life. By 14, Mel was already playing paid gigs in the Catskills. By 16, when he filled in for a sick MC and earned $10 a night, he realized that people cared more about his jokes than his drumming. For the first time, he felt what it was like to hold the attention of a room full of strangers, and he never forgot that feeling. In January 1944, he graduated high school. He considered college briefly, just like his brother had, but World War II was pulling him in. Years earlier he had changed his name to Melvin Brooks because another musician named Max Kaminsky kept causing confusion. That name change gave him a clean identity, a new self he could shape however he wanted. By 16, he was playing in smoky Brooklyn clubs where the air was thick, the crowds were loud, and the pay was barely enough to eat. Between drum sets, he roasted hecklers, told jokes, and tried impressions. One night in 1942 a drunken man tried to silence him, but Mel fired back with a quick joke and the man stumbled out of the club as the room erupted with laughter. In that moment, Mel understood something new. Comedy needed rhythm just like drums. One wrong beat and everything fell apart. One right beat and the whole room soared. During the day, he worked as a delivery boy in Manhattan's garment district. He carried heavy bundles down long streets, but the real reward came when he sneaked into theaters to watch vaudeville legends perform. Back home, he practiced in front of a mirror, copying gestures and vocal patterns. These moments became the building blocks of his future. At 17, he joined amateur circuits in Williamsburg, where he earned a reputation as the kid with the loud mouth and louder drumsticks. He mixed jokes with drumming, tossed insults with perfect timing, and delivered impressions touched with Yiddish humor that made audiences explode with laughter. These rough nights shaped his fearless style. On the boardwalk at Coney Island, he drummed and joked for coins. Fights broke out regularly, hustlers roamed everywhere, and danger was always close. Once, teenagers tried to steal his drum gear. Mel stood his ground. The argument nearly turned violent, but he didn't back away. Later he joked that Brooklyn trained him to never expect a second chance to duck. That toughness became woven into his personality. When he was 18, he took the Army IQ test and scored so high that the Army sent him to the Virginia Military Institute for the Army Specialized Training Program. He learned engineering and even saber techniques, but the program fell apart after only 12 weeks and he was sent directly to the war front. Even during training, he kept writing jokes. In the middle of danger, comedy became a lifeline. Soon he was part of the 114th Engineer Combat Group, facing the Battle of the Bulge. He cleared mines in frozen forests, surrounded by German patrols and deadly silence. He watched friends die. He saw mines explode only yards away. Once, he spotted a cluster of buried mines just in time to save his squad. Later, he joked that minefields taught him comedic timing because survival depended on knowing exactly when to pause. His unit built Bailey bridges under sniper fire and checked buildings for traps. When German propaganda blared through loudspeakers, Mel grabbed a bullhorn and shouted silly songs to mock them. Humor kept fear away, even just for a moment. After the war ended, he returned home in 1946 as a corporal with memories he tried to bury. He found work at Grossinger's Resort, earning $75 a week playing drums, hosting shows, and doing stunts to make people laugh. Some nights he would even dive into the pool fully dressed just to energize the crowd. The rooms were chaotic and unpredictable, but they sharpened his instincts. Those years taught him to read expressions, shift jokes instantly, rescue failing moments, and ride waves of loud laughter without losing control. By the late 1940s, he drifted between radio stations, handing out jokes to producers. In smoky clubs, he tested routines about war and life. One night a joke about mines fell flat, and the room froze. Instead of panicking, he revised the punchline on the spot, turning silence into roaring laughter. A producer noticed this skill and hired him for his first writing job at $25 a week. It was not much, but it was proof that he was finally entering a bigger world. In 1949, he auditioned for Sid Caesar's show. Instead of performing something polished, Brooks dropped to his knees and sang a strange, self-mocking song about how terrible he was. It was desperate, bold, and unforgettable. Sid Caesar hired him immediately. The pay was small but steady, and it placed him in a writer's room filled with legends like Neil Simon, Carl Reiner, and Mel Tolkien. They worked extreme hours, sometimes staying awake for 72 hours straight. They wrote more than 200 sketches a year for live television. The pressure was enormous, but the creativity was electric. He wrote sketches that pushed boundaries, blending absurdity with sharp humor. One sketch, called The Clock, required actors to freeze for hours on live TV. Brooks tried it during rehearsal and collapsed after nearly 4 hours. That moment shaped his love for physical comedy and later influenced his films. Another sketch he wrote with Larry Gelbart, French Underground, included a hidden joke hinting that Nazis were so foolish even a mouse could defeat them. The censors panicked, and the joke almost got the episode pulled. Brooks and Gelbart rewrote it at the last minute. These battles were early signs of his lifelong habit, pushing against restrictions without fear. By 1954, he earned his first Emmy nomination. Behind the scenes, tensions ran high. He clashed with Woody Allen more than once, and their arguments nearly turned physical. Early television was intense, competitive, and filled with strong personalities. But Mel walked out of that decade as one of comedy's giants. In 1960, Mel and Carl Reiner recorded The 2,000-Year-Old Man. It was unscripted, wild, sometimes vulgar, and many radio stations refused to play it. But audiences loved it, and the album sold over 1 million copies. Its raw humor freed him even more. By 1958, he left television, exhausted from years of non-stop writing and low pay. He tried Broadway with a musical called Shinbone Alley, but it flopped after only 49 performances. Even so, Mel Brooks kept going. Everything he had lived, poverty, fear, war, failure, hope, turned into the force that made him one of the most important comedic minds in history. The failure of his project hurt Mel Brooks both financially and emotionally, but that setback pushed him to change direction. He realized that if he wanted true creative freedom, he needed full control over his own work. That insight led him toward filmmaking, where he decided to direct his next big idea. In 1967, he pitched the producers a wild comedy built around a satire of Hitler. Studio after studio rejected it. 10 rejections came in a row, and most people thought the idea was too risky or too offensive to succeed. At last, Joseph E. Levine agreed to finance it, but he gave strict limitations. The budget was capped at $941,000, and the entire film had to be completed in just 40 days. Levine also refused to allow the original title, Springtime for Hitler, because he believed audiences would protest, so he forced the simpler title, The Producers. Brooks believed so strongly in the project that he chased down the actor Zero Mostel in a diner after recognizing him, and personally convinced him to take the role of Max Bialystock. The set was chaotic, loud, and emotional, but that messy energy shaped something unforgettable. The biggest controversy came from the musical number Springtime for Hitler. The chorus girls wore costumes that referenced gas chambers, and the stormtroopers danced in the shape of a giant swastika. At early readings, some people walked out of the room. Levine refused to let the film keep its original title because of how shocking the number was. When the movie finally premiered, some audience members left the theater in disgust, while others called it a masterpiece. That moment proved that satire could touch nerves no one expected. Filming added its own headaches. With a small budget and a tight schedule, Brooks pushed himself and his crew to the limit. Explosions went on longer than planned, fires broke out more than once, and Brooks became frustrated with his cinematographer, Joseph Coffey, who he felt used dull camera angles. Brooks eventually fired him in the middle of production and replaced the entire camera team overnight so filming could continue. The stress became so intense that Brooks developed insomnia, but he kept pushing because the film mattered deeply to him. When The Producers was released in 1968, it shocked many people by winning the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. Yet in theaters it earned only $375,524, less than half its budget. On paper it lost close to $3 million, and Brooks ended up in debt. He had to sell personal belongings and deal with studio accounting so confusing that he distrusted Hollywood finances for many years afterward. That failure made it harder to fund his next films, but it also made him fearless. Before all this, he had co-created the television show Get Smart in 1965 with Buck Henry. The show won 7 Emmys, but Brooks quit after the second season because NBC censors kept watering down his jokes. They wanted family-friendly touches like adding a cute dog or a gentle mother figure. Brooks refused, saying Max had no mother and never would. When the network softened the show, Brooks walked away, deciding he would only work on projects where he could protect his own voice. Brooks always pushed comedy further than anyone else dared, and that boldness showed early in the making of Blazing Saddles in 1974. For the famous campfire scene, he wanted everything real, so the actors ate actual baked beans and drank beer before filming. Every sound in the scene came from the actors themselves. They repeated the gag more than 100 times, but in the final cut Brooks used only 12 farts because he tested audience reactions and believed 12 was the perfect number before people stopped laughing and started feeling grossed out. He even raised the sound levels during editing so the joke would not be drowned out by laughter. Warner Brothers executives hated the scene and warned that it would offend audiences, but Brooks refused to cut it and declared it the funniest moment in the film. That decision changed comedy history forever, and afterward, crude humor became common in movies. Later that same year, he fought another creative battle. By 1974, Hollywood had fully embraced color films, but Brooks insisted that Young Frankenstein had to be shot in black and white. He wanted it to match the classic horror films he loved. Universal executives were stunned. They chased him through the studio halls shouting that no one wanted black and white anymore and even mentioned that Peru had just gotten color television, as if that proved their point. The studio tried to trick him by saying they would release the film in black and white but wanted it shot on color stock so they could re-release it in color later. Brooks refused. He demanded real black and white film so that no one could change his vision. That stubbornness paid off. Audiences loved the nostalgic look, and today it remains one of the most admired parts of the film. Fans still praise Brooks for risking his career to protect the style he believed in. During these years, rumors spread about Brooks rewriting scenes while high on marijuana. He wanted the atmosphere on set to feel loose and spontaneous, and sometimes he used it to spark fast jokes and fresh ideas. Studio executives disliked the rumors and whispered about addiction, even suggesting he might become an insurable. One executive warned him that a single arrest could end his career. Brooks never admitted to being addicted, but those whispers nearly derailed his future. Still, the films were huge hits, earning more than $100 million combined. His risks paid off yet again. When he created Spaceballs in 1987, he needed permission from George Lucas because of the Star Wars references. Lucas agreed but set one strict rule: no merchandise. He worried that Spaceballs toys would look too similar to Star Wars merchandise, which had already earned hundreds of millions. Because of that ban, Spaceballs lost millions in potential toy sales. Silly items Brooks wanted, like Princess Vespa scooters or bath airbags, never became real products. Brooks didn't let the rule go unnoticed. He added the line from Yogurt, "Merchandising is where the real money is," delivering it like a punch. 30 years later, Elon Musk jokingly named his flamethrower after the same line, and it sold out instantly. Lucas's merchandise ban never changed, and Spaceballs remains one of the only major films with almost no official action figures. Joan Rivers joined the cast as the voice of Dot Matrix. She improvised many of her lines and added voice glitches that made the character unforgettable. But the set had dangers. One practical explosion went wrong and burned Rick Moranis's wig so badly he needed medical attention. Production paused while he was rushed to the hospital. Brooks later said the accident raised the insurance costs by $50,000, which was a huge hit for a comedy film at the time. The chaos only added to the movie's legend. Dot Matrix became one of Rivers's most loved performances, and fans still mention that hospital incident when talking about the film's wild production. Spaceballs did not remain cheap. It began with a modest budget but soon ballooned to $22.7 million, more than double what the first Star Wars cost to make. Most of the money went to practical effects. The ludicrous speed sequence alone required custom models and intense planning. MGM executives panicked about the rising budget and were even more upset when Brooks included the combing the desert joke. Some executives found it offensive and pushed for edits. They even threatened to shut down the production if he refused. Brooks fought back, insisting it was satire. Despite the tension, Spaceballs survived and eventually became a beloved cult classic. Even the smallest jokes caused real-world fallout. After the film was released, several yogurt companies sued the studio, claiming that the character Yogurt confused customers. Every lawsuit was dismissed, but the cases showed how easily parody could step into legal territory. In the end, Yogurt became an iconic character, copied in fan art and referenced across pop culture. The legal battles only made the story of the film funnier. Brooks had taken big risks in earlier projects too. In History of the World, Part 1 in 1981, he created the famous Jews in Space sketch. It was a playful twist on Star Trek, with spaceships shaped like Stars of David and glowing Hebrew letters drifting through space. The humor made a bold point about Jewish survival. The sketch was banned in 10 countries, including Germany and Israel. Some actors refused to participate because they thought it crossed a line, and Brooks had to reshoot scenes at his own expense. The controversy helped the sketch become a legend, and today it is remembered as one of the bravest comedic moments ever put on screen. His energy followed him into theater when he adapted The Producers for Broadway in 2001, starring Nathan Lane and Matthew Broderick. The rehearsal room felt like a prank war. Actors swapped props, taped chairs, and replaced real script pages with nonsense ones. The chaos created an atmosphere where anything could happen, which helped the show explode with life. That wild energy turned the musical into a record-breaking phenomenon. It won 12 Tony Awards, including Best Musical, the most any show had ever won. But the production had scares too. During previews, the song Keep It Gay shocked so many audience members that some walked out. Investors panicked and threatened to pull their funding. Brooks had to rewrite lines and change scenes during previews, spending $2 million on fixes that ultimately saved the show. The adjusted version kept the satire sharp and became a story theatre lovers still share. When the show moved to London in 2004, it faced a new kind of danger. IRA bombing threats forced the cast into emergency protocols during several performances. Security was tightened, but the cast continued performing through the tension. Nathan Lane often received standing ovations for performing under such intense circumstances. That resilience added another layer to the show's legacy. Brooks tried to repeat his Broadway success with the Young Frankenstein musical in 2007. It cost $14 million to produce, but the show never connected with audiences the way he hoped. Even though it won an award for its score, it lost $15 million by the time it closed. Critics said it was too silly. Brooks defended it, saying improvisation kept it alive. The financial loss shocked the theatre world and reminded everyone that even legends face failure. Brooks had achieved EGOT status in 2001, becoming one of the few people in history to win an Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony. But in 2010 he surprised fans by auctioning off one of his Tony Awards because of personal financial issues. The sale raised a large amount of money and showed how open he was about the strange relationship he had with fame and wealth. It became one of the most memorable and unusual moments in modern Broadway history. His personal life had storms of its own. Brooks married Anne Bancroft in 1964, 2 years after divorcing Florence Baum, the mother of his first 3 children. In the 1970s, rumors spread about affairs during the filming of Young Frankenstein and Silent Movie. One famous story says that Brooks publicly thanked actor Tim Matheson for not sleeping with Bancroft during Silent Movie, which only fueled gossip. These rumors strained their marriage and nearly pushed them to divorce, but they stayed together until Bancroft died of uterine cancer in 2005. Even now, Brooks refuses to slow down. At 99 years old in 2025 and worth around $100 million, mostly from long-term royalties, he announced 2 major new projects, Spaceballs 2 and a TV series called Very Young Frankenstein. FX approved the pilot and hired Taika Waititi to direct, with Stephanie Robinson as showrunner. These deals are worth around $20 million and are among the most expensive comedy projects ever created by someone nearly a century old. Brooks joked that fans had begged for sequels and he wanted to give them something even better. He has also never stopped supporting charity. In 2010, he headlined a major fundraiser for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society and raised $1 million in a single night. Tickets ranged from $100 to $250, and VIP guests shared champagne and dessert with him. He performed improvised Hitler jokes on stage and kept the room laughing for hours. Later, he donated props from the producers and other films to museums as part of his estate planning. In 2018, he faced a frightening health crisis when he needed emergency pacemaker surgery. The risks were serious, but he recovered and continued working. He voiced characters in the Hotel Transylvania films until 2022. He later admitted he regretted not making more daring films after the 1990s because the entertainment world became more restrictive. Comedy, he said, was always his shelter, and sometimes he wished he had pushed even harder. When he accepted a Lifetime Achievement Award at Guildhall in 2021, he surprised the crowd by opening up about the deeper roots of his satire. He spoke about serving in World War II and the trauma of helping liberate concentration camps. That moment gave people a new understanding of him. Behind the wild humor, the risk-taking, and the bold jokes stood a man who had seen real darkness and spent his life using laughter to fight it.